what's your hype song, brother, when you're getting ready to go?
Just do better.
That's not a song.
Yeah, it was quite good, obviously, to beat the Kiwis. So hopefully we can do the same in a couple of months.
Fighting talk. You do a weekly hour-long meeting to all of our sailors and design team about
It's
where
the most attended meeting of the week, by the way.
It is. It is a good meeting, isn't it?
It is.
Hello, sailing fans, America's Cup fans, sports fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Inside Tack. Our theme for this podcast is around reconnaissance and how we use looking at the other team's boats to make our boat go faster, and how reconnaissance in the America's Cup has changed over the last, say, 20 years to where we are today. The worlds are wildly different, as is everything in the America's Cup. Now, the two people we've got to pick through this tricky world of spying and espionage is Dylan Fletcher, one of our helmsmen, Olympic gold medalist, current reigning 49er gold medalist, in fact, for the next 2 months at least.
Couple of weeks,
You're still the reigning 49er gold medalist. And Lucas Delcourt. Lucas Delcourt, is that French
Delcourt,
enough?
yeah. It's
How would
enough.
you say your surname?
Delcourt?
Oh, Delcourt.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, perfect.
And Lucas has been with us for, God, how long? 8 years?
Yeah.
You don't look.
Almost, yeah.
You don't look old enough to have been with us for 8 years because you.
I
you're
joined
youthful.
I joined pretty early, straight out of uni. So yeah.
And Lucas, we know what Dylan does. Lucas, what do you do for INEOS Britannia?
I've been evolving quite a bit since the beginning of the journey with the team, but mainly now, like looking at performance and managing the performance side of things and the relationship with those guys, and trying to transform a bit our theoretical world into a way of saying things that are not too complicated for them and in terms that they can understand and translate, I would say.
You for me, Lucas, are the translator. You are the man in the team who can talk sailor and you can talk technical and you can sit in the middle and you can translate the conversations between the two rooms and get us all singing off the same hymn sheet, which when it's in your second language, mate, is pretty bloody impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, I struggle sometimes with some of the accents, but yeah.
And the English slang often catches you out a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, squashing, all of that. Yeah, it's a bit tough sometimes.
Okay, so lads, let's wind it to the Recon. This has been a really, for an old timer like me. Now let's wind back. I'm going to swing the lantern. When I first did my first America's Cup in 2003, I was in charge of putting a skirt on around the hull so nobody could see anything that we were designing, building, foil world, rudder world, bulb world. I was in charge of that. I loved doing the skirt before we craned the boat out. Now, get your head around this. We pay people to spy on us. Dylan, just explain to me what that's all about.
Yeah, so for this America's Cup, it was the start of the joint Recon Program. As you say, previously it was all sort of team run, whereas for this Cup what we had is, so each team would employ two people, a reporter and a videographer, photographer, and every day we went sailing, every day we went on the water, sometimes even just on the apron, they would be covering that, basically following us around. They're allowed on site, there's designated areas, and they also had one of our chase boats. There was a few rules around where they could go, but ultimately they were sort of working. We were paying them, but they're working for everyone else to provide the recon.
Right. Okay. And then at the end of the day, they would grab someone like you who's been helming T6, our old test boat, or the AC40, or now Britannia, and they'd ask you a bunch of questions about the sailing day, and you would have to answer honestly, but maybe not, maybe hold a little bit back. I did enjoy all the post-sailing recon interviews where people were trying not to give too much away, but also kind of do their job.
Yeah, the post-sailing interviews were certainly almost actually one of the most interesting parts of the joint Recon Program. You certainly learned quite a few little bits of information in there, and some sailors, maybe more than others, were quite happy to show off a little bit of how much they knew, which was always quite nice.
Okay. Not naming any names,
no
obviously.
Names.
And Lucas, you sitting in the performance team and having a solid design hat on as well. Could you speak to the Recon guys looking at other teams and say, hey, chaps, we want a bit more looking at Alingi's jib setup upwind? Was that a conversation that could be had?
Yeah, I mean, Dylan was actually doing like a nice link of that between the design team and generally the Recon program. So he will come to us, and actually, if we had any request, systems, design, trims, that he could then feed back to the recon team and then get in like specific shots that we will request for. The interesting fact, though, is you ask for that,
right,
and then it's available to everyone.
Yeah, okay.
You don't get your own information. So certainly if you're interested about
Yes.
something in particular from other teams,
Yes.
While you draw attentions to what you might think is important or not, as well to the other teams.
So the other teams would see the question that you've asked to the recon teams?
Yeah, you would send a request in, and everyone can see who the request was made by, who it was for, and what for, basically.
Oh,
it would be
my
interesting.
Goodness,
like,
I didn't know that.
How many requests did we get on our boat?
We didn't have many requests.
on now, hang on, are we talking about requests on T6 or Britannia?
Yeah, T6, we didn't have too many requests. I'm not sure why.
Right, okay.
Maybe because our recon team was doing a good job.
Yeah, to be fair, there was each of the recon teams, they're all very good, but they all had their areas they were particularly good at.
Right.
And the team that we had at the start was certainly very good at the video side.
And this is a question. So we have loads of videos, loads of pictures, interviews from the other teams. And a lot of that information was coming in around when we were making key design decisions for Britannia. The obvious question that I know everyone listening is, how much does that information inform our design strategy? Lucas, I'll start with you, particularly in and around sail world, because that's a world where you sit and are very comfortable.
Yeah, so I have to say, like, on the sales side, at least for the beginning and all of the LAQ stories.
LEQ being the small test boats.
Yeah. Exactly. People sailing mainly on AC40s from time to time, like launching a new main, or new jibs, but adapted to this rig. Like some people having their own LAQ, or even like launching on their old boats. And versus us, we decided to take our own path initially. And I would say on the sales side is one of the things that is tricky is how much like the painting job can, like all of the secrets is more or less in the structure of the sail. And it's pretty hard to know, like the structure is what you're going to put a lot of efforts in, because at the end, that's what gives you the shapes. And
when you say structure, Lucas, for people who aren't that way inclined, you mean about how the carbon fibers laid out in the sail and stuff like that?
It's a layout. Right. And I mean, there's two secrets, layouts and molds. And molds, you can look at the shape afterwards, but like what they call the dark art, which is how they name it in the sail design world,
is right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's mystical.
We have some magicians.
Is that mystical?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And we know like some teams like to do a really heavy paint job, and it's pretty hard to decipher what they do with it.
Right. But that's weight though, right? If you're painting
on your LAQ.
On your LAQ, who cares?
Yes, exactly.
That's interesting.
I would say that it's, and then therefore on their way of trimming, I would say that this is why it's way more interesting, because we have our tools, and our tools gives us indication. And for a long time, before any boat is on the water, you work only on your VPP, you work on the theoretical trims, etc. And sometimes the tools give you questionable answer. It depends how you ask the questions. And so then we have our little chats with the sailing team, and certainly like sometimes, probably more than a couple of times, some of the things that came out looked a bit weird.
Right.
So it's always good to see, okay, we're going to try our sails, do something, but keep an eye on the others. And what's quite interesting is then we have the sailing team on our back saying, hey, you are telling us to do that. And we seem to be the only one. And interestingly, the other ones are following the same one, which at the beginning was probably the case, looking at some of the Kiwis setups and stuff like that. We're like, seems like we're maybe on the right path. We'll
come back, we'll loop back to that kind of working with the recon team, working with the sailors, now that all of the 75s are out here sailing. I think it's really interesting. And a caveat to that is the recon rules have just changed as well. But Dylan, you are an absolute foil geek. I'm not gonna say anything but that's why you're Moth World Champion, right? Current Moth World Champion, because the last one didn't count.
Yes, luckily.
There you go. So current 49er and Moth World Champion, fair enough. Like, why? Because the last one there wasn't enough races, and
Yeah,
all that
last
kind
one
of
was
stuff.
in Weymouth, and I couldn't do it because I had a commitment here.
Yeah.
And they only got 2 races in or something, which was obviously a big disappointment. But I'll happily hold on to it for another year.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. You've basically got 2 more months of absolute glory holding
Yeah.
on to you. Well, let's hope more glory to come. But you are, like I say, a moth geek. And whenever I'm like, hey, Dills, what are you up to this weekend? You're like, oh my God, these guys are launching a new foil and I can't wait to go through the recon photos of it. So with your foil hat on, you spend so much time looking at rudder shapes and foil shapes, stuff that doesn't get me overly excited. I'm a drivetrain kind of guy. Same question to you. How much do you gather that information? You do a weekly hour-long meeting to all of our sailors and design team about
the
where
most attended meeting of the week, by the way.
It is. It is a good meeting, isn't it?
It is.
Do you know, if we recorded that meeting and put it out as a podcast, that would way outclass this one. But it's like the Dylan Fletcher kind of version of the world. You know,
It's a bit boring. It's a bit niche, I'd say.
I tell you what, there's a market for that.
Yeah.
There's a market for that for sure. Same question to you, Dills. Like, how much have you been looking at all of the foils on the test boats, and now it's harder to react to the foils on the bigger boats? But early on, when you were seeing the foils coming out on the test boats, what were the conversations like there around the sailors, designers, perf team?
Well, it was quite interesting, you know, sort of the different approaches each team took. I guess ultimately we were obviously looking at the foils they were choosing to make, and there's things like, where was the actuator, so the part of that controls the flap.
Right.
Did they have the Fletcher, which is effectively the top surface of the foil has like a covering over it, so you can't see the hinge line.
Right.
Then there was obviously the shape of the foil, the size of the foil, and I guess ultimately it's interesting that Luna Rossa, American Magic, and Team New Zealand all made their last test foils were incredibly similar to what they've actually produced on the 75s.
Right.
Are you saying it's not the case for us?
Whereas, yeah, for us, we were probably a bit of the outlier. We obviously, T6 was purely built as a test mule and about recording data. And we built, you know, some foils, which I know some people sort of outside of this team questioned exactly why we made them, but it was all to further our understanding and our development. And ultimately, we were probably the team that has made a set of foils that look nothing like any of our test foils.
Right. Right. Okay.
But we grab information from all of them.
We did grab information from all of them, but I think there was still a lot of, there was still a big, you know, when we launched our boat, we were maybe early-ish into like launching our race foils, and there's a lot of, you know, looking at everyone else and where we all landed.
Do you know, something pricked my attention there when you said people outside of this world had opinions on. There's a lot of chat room chatter, Sailing Anarchy kind of forums. Obviously, Mozzie Sales does sort of really interesting views with his insights into the world. How much do you guys look at that? Is that a thing? Do you kind of go into the dark world of a Sailing Anarchy forum, or do you just see that as noise?
I think it's a pretty dangerous place.
I have to say that last campaign, that was my probably second most visited website of the campaign, Sailing Anarchy, because
I won't ask what the first was.
Yeah.
That's a French sporting newspaper, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, it is actually Eurosport.
Oh, was it? Yeah, Cycling Geek over there. Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, like we didn't have the join Recon, and we had, our own Recon going sometimes here and there. We had like the young guys going sometimes in the US. Great Recon stories, by the way. Almost ending up in jail.
Yes, yeah. Ollie Grieber almost ended up in jail. Yeah, old school.
Yeah,
we'll get onto that.
But we didn't have that many information, especially for Kiwi, and we had like this great guy who was like putting YouTube videos every single day of the Kiwis going out sailing.
That's right.
And yeah, that was our best way to watch it. And I have to say that I completely dropped Sailing Anarchy this campaign because we have the Joint Recon Program, and we actually have direct information, so we're not forced to rely on some people to take a couple of shots or get a bit of information. So luckily I dropped Sailing Anarchy from my best things.
But still go and have a little look there, because there is some quite fun stuff, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Mainly looking at what people say about us, I would say.
Don't do that. That's a bad thing to do.
You go out with a big smile.
Yeah. and Dills in the last, last 3 weeks, Recon's changed again, right? So we've moved away from this joint Recon world, the loving, let's call it, where we all shared everything. And where are we now?
Yeah, so it was, I guess the joint recon ending was, I guess, sort of disappointing for the fans, because one of the other parts that sort of fell out of the joint recon, which we probably didn't fully appreciate at the start, was just how much more engagement that got with the fan base, having to see every day someone went sailing. There was videos and reports and photos going out. And so now I guess that sort of died down a bit, and we're into this everyone doing their own recon. So each team has their own recon team. It's all sort of very much more traditional. We have, so our team goes out on the water, takes photos, videos. There's some parts of it which, are a little bit easier for us. We obviously control that recon completely. And so if there's something we want to look at, then we can go and get the exact shots or video that we want. But the flip side is that you've got one team covering the 5 other teams here, whereas previously we obviously had 5 other teams. Every team was always being covered. So I think there's pros and cons to it all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there. And Lucas, in your world, we touched on it. The foil world, yes, we can react. We're lucky in a position where we have a very good engineering team behind us. We have our massive shout out to our squad in Brackley that are churning out parts and bits. We can react within reason. But Lucas, in your world, in the aero setup, in the sail world, we can react a lot quicker. So with the fact in mind that we can go and follow teams and look at their setups and adapt quicker, do you find it quite a hectic part of the America's Cup right now, because you're getting all of our information, but then really detailed looks at other people's setups? And how does that change how we trim effectively?
Well, I think the best thing is actually sailing all in the same patch of water. Like every time we look at trims, the first question is, what were the conditions? And in a way, it was pretty hard maybe in the past to say, okay, was it 10? Was it 12? Was it like 8 knots? Was it wavy? Not wavy. And here you go out, our boat is probably sailing within a certain perimeter of the others.
Not within 400 meters,
no,
obviously,
never,
because that would be breaking the
and
protocol.
on the same tack, never.
Yeah, never do that. Yeah.
But yeah, like it gives you pretty accurate information, and the way we all sail in the same water, we can compare our setups. And of course, that triggers discussions on the main thing is about reaccelerating on those boats. Like there's not much you can spend at really straight line, and I would say it's maybe something that is quite hard to model, like the dynamic of the boats and how you want to be and how forgiving. And actually looking at the others are just like, okay, where are the positioning themselves? If we get similar kind of like answers again from the tools or from our setup, we're like, okay, but it just allows us to have like more questions.
Sure.
And sometimes it's a bit overwhelming because, well, they're all sailboats, they're all AC-75, but because of each boat's specificity, they're all gonna maybe promote a certain trim depending on others. Like sometimes sail trims are quite flat. I mean, you go sailing on your normal boat and you're gonna have 2 boats sometimes, even in one design, that are trimmed differently and go at the same pace on the same line. Because sometimes on some conditions, it allows you to do it. But for sure, if the condition a bit more waves, for sure it would be dead. So it's quite tricky to make sure that we understand the connection between the sail trims and what they have under the water. Because some of the balance sometimes is a bit different, and we want to make sure we capture the big rocks. But it can influence the sail design when we look at certain teams doing certain things, and we're like, we can still react. As you said, a sail just takes 3 weeks to come and arrive, and there's still some little modifications which will make the sailing team's life easier that we can spot on the other teams. And suddenly we're like, okay, well, if there's not much gain or not much to lose, or if there is gains to have as well, then we can still react and push, and all the team will still build sails until the last time. So yeah,
exactly. I love this new world of recon that we live in, but I do miss the good old days of proper spying. I mean, you've only got to roll back to Australia too, when they had their revolutionary wing keel, when they first won the America's Cup and broke the Americans' winning streak, and all the rumours of divers with underwater cameras in the 80s going down there. And then, as we've kind of alluded to, a sailing team member in our last campaign going and reconning another team and supposedly trespassing, a senior member in that team getting very, very, very angry with him and calling the police. I mean, there is a bit of me that misses that hustle and bustle around the recon, but maybe actually that's where we are now.
There was another funny story last campaign
Go on.
where some French spies were chirping along our Friday spot of the team to have beers.
Right.
And that was the best spot for sure. Like, you put sailors around a beer, and of course they speak a lot.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You do.
But I mean, you definitely go to the Thursday night beers here way more lighthearted, because you more or less know that they got 95% of the information already.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's already available straight away on the same day out there. So you can, I mean, we have a lot of friends in other teams, and it makes the chat with them a bit easier.
Yeah.
But definitely last campaign was a lot of trying poker, oh, what do you know, what you don't know. And it was kind of funny trying to go and fish some things, but it still is. But I think with all of the information presented to us a bit more easily, there's a bit less of that, which I'm not against, to be honest. But
it's funny, isn't it, when you go out for meals, like you say, and drinks with your friends, it's strictly talk about family, other sport. It's oh, so how's it going? Yeah, it's going great, mate. Yeah, how are you? Oh, yeah, great. It kind of disintegrates pretty quick, doesn't it, that chat? Right, lads, let's park the recon stuff. Quick fire questions. Dylan, give us a talent that no one knows that you have.
I don't know. No one knows.
Go on.
I guess you guys might know now, but I'm not particularly very good in the gym, but I can deadlift quite a lot of weight.
Oh my God.
So I can't bench press, can't bench pull, but for some reason I can deadlift.
You can lift some weight off the floor. I reckon you'd probably be one of probably our lightest sailor, right? And I reckon you deadlift the most weight.
I'm not sure about the most weight, but compared to everything else, it's the one thing I can do that's all right.
But just quietly, you do deadlift in those funny little trainers that has each individual toe, like marathon runny trainers. And for all of the call that you have for lifting a lot of weight, you lose it for looking like an absolute dweeb in those trainers. And this probably isn't the platform to say that, but as our relationship is growing, I feel like you should know that.
Are you going to buy me a new pair of shoes?
Actually, I will buy you a new pair, because you look like such a dweeb.
Yeah,
all right?
nice.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm glad I got that by chat. I've been wanting to say that for about 2 years, and now I've managed to say it.
Did you change ever your pair in 2 years? Or it's the same one?
Oh, no, I've had them for years.
Do you know the toes, the shoes we're talking about, Lucas?
Yeah, I know, because I look the same as.
Have you seen him in those trainers?
Oh yes, he looks weird, man.
Yeah, they're good. It's because I like to do barefoot, but people think that's a bit gross in the gym. So it's the closest thing you get to barefoot.
Right.
I thought it was climbing shoes.
No, I think they're barefoot running shoes. But yeah, it's good for when we're in the 49er, we're running around basically barefoot. So you want.
Did you win a gold medal in bare feet?
I actually wasn't barefoot that day. I don't think so.
Right, that'd be a pretty cool claim to fame. So not many people would win gold medals in bare feet. Lucas, in fact, I can say a talent for you. You're a designer, but you and I go out riding a bit. If you wanted to switch your brain off and become a cycler, you're not a million miles off where the lads are, right?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are another level. But I do enjoy cycling. I enjoy sports in general.
Yeah.
But
you've recently taken up paddle. Everyone's into paddle. Paddle's the thing.
Barcelona, you have to take on paddle. Yeah, we have a couple of games with some of the cycling union guys.
Yeah, okay. How do the cyclers go against the brains? Who wins that?
Well, it's actually an interesting sport, because it's not how hard you hit it, because if you hit really hard, it comes back really fast.
Right, okay.
So sometimes we learn that actually placing the ball and all of that is just way more efficient. We have good games.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot. There's a paddle tournament. Who is going to represent? Who's the doubles pair that's going to represent INEOS Britannia? Bear in mind that people will probably not speak to you after you've made this statement.
have to say Martin Toliday.
Martin Toliday
Really?
from Mercedes and
Oh,
Formula One fame.
Yeah, so he loves tennis,
Right.
but he just loves paddle. Since he's here, he just wants to play paddle every single day.
Wow, okay.
He's just going around every person in the team saying, wow, we're playing paddle when he's
Really?
playing paddle. And he just has this thing, he hates losing.
That's probably
And-
why he's won
well,
so many Formula
Yeah, it's
One.
good.
And we
Yeah.
love doing one thing with him is to give him drop shots and looking at him running really slowly to the net. And
Martin Toliday's of
swearing
a
at him.
certain age. Let's just clarify that. Like he does well.
I
and
love him.
who's partnering him then? You can say yourself.
No, Richard Young,
Oh,
probably.
yeah. Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Plays
had
it.
Rich in here, Sim Rich. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He has a really nice backhand volley.
Oh.
A deadly one. Yeah.
Shout out to Rich Young.
Yeah, copy.
And
Yeah.
Rich right now, like we mentioned on our pod with Rich in the sim that he's a cyclor. That man is looking fit. I reckon he does more time in the gym than most of the cyclors.
Yeah, I mean, every time you guys just say sails down, where is Rich? Straight into the gym on the watt bike
I respect that.
for another 2 hours.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
He's going really well. Shout out to Rich. Dills, if you weren't here, being in the America's Cup, where are you? You're out pro sailing still somewhere?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
You've
certainly.
RC40 Ford and Cape 31 and
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to make through the ranks and get onto the, like anything, the bigger, faster, nicer boat.
Olympic sailing. You had climbed that mountain and were happy with your journey there?
Yeah, I think I retired in 2022 and I kind of wanted to try again, but it was too steep. I thought it was too steep a mountain when I also wanted to be involved in this team so much. And I didn't see how the two coincided.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And you went out at the top, buddy. So happy days, really.
Yeah, it was quite good, obviously, to beat the Kiwis. So hopefully we can do the same in a couple of
Ooh,
months.
fighting talk. But fair enough. That's the headspace that I'm sure everybody around this viaduct is in right now. So yeah, fair play. Lucas, when you are hyping yourself up for a massive paddle match, give me a hype song, brother. What have you got in your ears to pump you up? Is it the French national anthem? Because you are deeply annoying and patriotic whenever France are playing England in anything. And the most annoying thing is
Especially in rugby.
Especially in rugby. The most annoying thing is France often beat us, especially in rugby. But what's your hype song, brother, when you're getting ready to go?
Just do better. Just,
That's not a song. You're not a music guy.
I don't
You
know.
don't have
Music.
like some little French ballad that will play in your ears and
I'm really bad at music,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to say. So I just like put the same playlist every time I go in the gym. And
right.
at the moment, I don't know. It's probably like some Eminem. I guess I would put some
Yeah,
Eminem.
there you go.
okay. Same as Neil
Motivation.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Neil Hunter, one of our big cyclors, is an Eminem guy.
Yeah, probably Eminem.
Okay. Dills, on the boat, we have the open comms to all the team and the cyclor chat, the cyclor comms. If you could listen to any comms, which comms are you listening to, brother?
It's a good one. I like to have both on.
Because
I-
sometimes when you're in the rib listening, you often chime. In fact, I've got to tell the story. This is brilliant. So we'd had the absolute crap kicked out of us on a sailing day one day, and we were reaching home. And as a cyclor, you finish your hot laps and you are spent. You are done. And the reach home, you're not really getting much from it. The lads are having a lovely drive. And Dylan was in the chase boat this day and he had the cyclo comms on and you decided to motivate us, right? How did you motivate us, buddy?
That was just a few tunes. I think it might have been a Friday, right?
It was like, it's
Yeah.
Friday then.
Yeah.
And it was Friday, so it worked. So that was good.
And we had a bit of Pedro.
Man, we all, I think the watts went through the roof. Maybe there's something in that for racing.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we were in the listening room.
You heard that as well?
Oh, we were like whole laughing like crazy.
Really? Yeah. Well, maybe.
Because we have your chat as well.
You have the cyclor chat.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I didn't really know that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, wow.
Well, we rather tune to this one. It's way more funny.
There you go.
Hey, yeah. Okay.
There's only one time at the moment where I switch it off is when Chabi is giving you the Tour de France updates.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
because
it's
you're
just-
trying not to find out the result.
Yeah.
And we're asking Xavi what's going on between Poggy and Vingegaard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's quite a good direct sportif though as well. I've
He
heard him
is.
on the comms being quite motivating.
He is very
and-
motivating.
Yeah.
So we have our code now. He's going to be, he's like, cycles, it's a true front update.
And then you can dial it back.
Yeah, we agreed on like a warning so I can take off my helmet and just like you guys get to an update.
just to wind it back a bit, 98% of our day is deadly serious on the water. We're making it sound like we're out there for a jolly. That couldn't be anything further from the truth. We pick and choose our moments to have these jolly times. Lads, we're going to have to wrap up the pod because I know you are both busy. We're going sailing tomorrow and we've got a lot to look at today, but we've got to finish with a grit, rigor, humour. Obviously sits above the INEOS brand, the INEOS sporting umbrella. Dills, you have a plethora of stories with your Olympic sailing and how you got here. Is there a story you can share with the pod listeners that you've learned from?
Yeah, there was, I guess, probably one that stands out that not many people know about. So leading into Tokyo Olympics, obviously everyone knows it was like the COVID games and there was a lot of disruption in training and logistics, and we ended up basically with all of our equipment being sent there early. We arrived late, and so our favorite mast that we had put away a couple of years ago as our games mast we hadn't used, and we were like, we'll just use the one that we've been training on because we've been going quite well, and we'd done 4 or 5 days training, and I was like, it's not good enough. And so obviously there was a bit of Stu thought the wheels might be falling off. Stu Biffle, the guy I sailed with, the wheels might be falling off, and there was a lot of conversations around, are we really, swapping masts this late to the games? And we hadn't actually used that mast since the 2019 test event when we won a silver medal. So it was 2 years since we'd used it, and we so we spent all evening swapping everything over, making it,
And this is 24 hours for race one?
Oh, it was not quite. It was a couple of days.
Right.
We had a couple of days, and anyway, so we swapped rigs, put it up. We went out and did 40 minutes sailing with our training partners, the Swiss, and Sebastian's now probably on track for a medal this summer, and all the best to him. So, and we went out 40 minutes later, and happy days, it was like, we were, happy that it was fast. And Stu was obviously a little worried and was expressing his concern. But I think what was nice was that balance between us, as he gave me that bit of room to make that decision. Anyway, so fast forward a couple of days, we come off the start line. We haven't sailed against the Kiwis since January 2020, so nearly a year and a half. We hadn't sailed against them. And we came with the start line, race one, they were to windward. We just looked over our shoulder after a couple of minutes sailing. We were like, oh, it's on, this is on. And the rest is history. But
nice.
There was a bit of stress around that.
Yeah. So just keeping your thought processes clear in the big moments and allowing each other breathing room to kind of verbalize what you're thinking and not being set in your ways. Is that the kind of learning, do you think, there?
Yeah, and I think also just trusting the process. Like we put that mast aside and said that was our best one, and we kind of got distracted by, maybe not the confidence having used it in a while, but the reason why we put it aside was because of a good reason. Yeah.
Nice. And Lucas, is there something that you've learned in you're bloody young, but you've been in this game a long time. There must be things that you've learned.
Yeah, for me, it's like maybe resilience. It was always not easy to come. I always wanted to work in sailing. Probably not good enough like you to make it up to being a sailor myself, more as an amateur. But really wanted to work in there, so decided pretty early on I wanted to be like in this game, and had to do a lot of sacrifice along the way to get here. And I think what characterized probably me is that when I have an objective in my mind, like I will grind.
You are stubborn.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a strength.
Yeah, and the latest one was I got engaged into like a 1,000-kilometer bike race by another colleague,
Right.
Fabien. And I like cycling, never did that in my life. I was like, maybe that's a good training for offshore sailing,
Yeah.
to find out my limits and try to see where it goes. And I broke my little chain ring after 40K.
Oh, wow. It's all right. You only had 960K.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and 6,000-meter climbing elevation to do.
Buddy, we think.
And I was like, okay, well, let's go, huh? Game on, try to nurse myself. I end up injuring my knee, and then because I couldn't, I was like forcing too much in the climbs.
Sure. So you were stuck in the big cock.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
And then like ended up like, okay, therefore I can't stand up on the pedals anymore. And so I was doing all the climbs seated, and then I heard a little bit what's underneath.
Yeah, copy that. Yeah.
And I ended up like finishing the last 30K by moaning every time I would get out of the pedal, moaning every time I would sit back on the thing, being really tired, but being really, really happy to finish and like not have to give up in the middle. So that was cool.
I think that's you in a nutshell, isn't it, mate? You're like a dog with a bone, which I quite enjoy. I quite enjoy you tearing around the office with your ideas and sharing it with the sailing team and the design team. And
yeah, I mean,
just slightly less chat about French rugby and you'll be a top man. Yeah. There you go. Right.
Sevens is coming, man.
Sevens is coming. Yeah, you've got to be excited about the Olympics. And Dills, sorry, I'm going to keep asking. Weird for you not being at the games?
Yeah, it's slightly odd. Yeah. But wishing, the whole of the Team GB and the British sailing team good luck, and hope they bring home retain the title of the most successful sailing team again.
You know what?
French are there, mate.
French are there. Spanish are
on French territory, man. Game is on.
Yeah, the game is on. It's going to be some good sport this summer. Away from the America's Cup, Olympic Sailing, Youth America's Cup, SailGP kicking back off with season 5. Like, we've got a lot coming our way. But that's a lovely message to end on, Dills, and that seems like a perfect place to wrap up this podcast, having a look at the modern world of reconnaissance and how we use it and how we have used it and what it looks like now, how we respond to the recon from a sailing team point of view and a performance team point of view. And that wraps up the Inside Tack this week. Like and subscribe. They're going to keep coming. We are really looking forward to getting into the racing and bringing you these pods whilst we're racing, giving you a really good inside tack on what's going on here at INEOS Britannia. Follow us on all of the socials, and we'll see you next time.